Are you a lifelong fan of General Hospital?
Are you a new fan who wants to know more about the history of the show?
Do you enjoy talking about the show with others?
Do you find yourself yelling at the TV?
Is your self-care an hour a day in Port Charles?
If so, we invite you to join hosts
Amanda Kimmel
and Shannon Coach at the place where all the hidden conversations take place and secrets are revealed.
Meet us at Pier 54,
a General Hospital fan podcast.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to part 8 of Lila Quartermaine. We are picking up at the end of 1999, right after the adventure of discovering what Edward and Lila's secret was.
The end of 99. Are we even going to make it into 2000? The world was supposed to end. 99.
I know. So on August 5th, Alan came back with a package for Edward. It is Lila's anniversary present. The ticket from when they first met, he had bronzed. Alan tells his father that no matter how crazy things got at home, he always knew how much Edward loves Lila. He says, how can he ever tell the woman that shown him love day and day? He says how he can never tell the woman that that shown him love day and day and stayed by his side when any other woman would have left him, just how much she means to him. Lila was at the door and heard and speaks up. You just did, dear. And then asks if that present is for her. And I mean, a lot of this is little side stuff, but we've already discussed it. We love Lila. So,
yes.
On October 19th, Felicia thought about her marriage as she talked to Lila after bringing her a copy of the completed memoirs for her to read. When asked about her feelings for Elliot, Lila commented to Felicia that it's possible to talk yourself into love, but that sometimes it just happens and you can't reason your way out of it. On the 26th, Carly was looking out the window and crying. Lila came up, tooling in her wheelchair, asking if she wanted to be alone. Carly told her how much she hated winter at the Quartermaines, how snow covered all the roses and the white grounds made you feel so trapped. Lila asked her if she wanted to get away, and Carly answered, what would I? Why would I?
Yeah.
She went on to say that she had all she's ever wanted, all she ever dreamed about when she was a little girl, a nice house, nice clothes, nice jewels. Lila told her she understood perfectly. Carly observed that Lila was a lot like Jason and that she was a lot like Edward with her planning and scheming. Still crying, she told Lila, Edward has hurt you a lot. And Lila replied, from time to time. Carly went on to say, he didn't mean to. He just knew you'd understand, forgive him, and try again. But what if that feeling never comes back and this is all there is? Lila countered, but dear, I'm married to the man that I love. And on November 2nd, Edward brought Lila some roses from the garden, and she immediately picked up on the fact that he wanted something from her. He asked her what Carly was up to and assured Lila that he only wanted to know for AJ's sake. And Lila told him to mind his own business and to put her flowers in the water before they melted.
Aww.
I'm more impressed with the fact that they have roses in November in New York.
Yep. We'll just pretend like they had a greenhouse or something.
Yes, we'll go with that.
So then January of 2000, at the Quartermaine mansion, Carly comes down the stairs in her best hooker clothes, acting like gutter trash. She called herself...
We are copying this from soapcentral.com. I forgot to say that.
She called herself Carly Babes, flirted with the European investors and with Edward. Even Lila warned her to watch herself. Carly continued to insult everyone, including Amanda Barrington, who she accused of being a drunk. After everyone left, Edward admonished Carly, saying she had showed so much promise as a Quartermaine and now she'd blown it. After Edward left, Lila rolled into Carly's room looking for him. Carly asked if she was mad at her, and Lila asked if she should be. Carly apologized for ruining the party and flirting with Edward, but said she was just trying to make a point. Lila asked her what that would be, and Carly said it was that she didn't belong here, and neither did Michael. Lila asked her if she was sure of that or just doing what was best for her rather than what was best for Michael, and then she left. Jason said his goodbyes to a teary Emily, who begged him to stay. He promised her he would write and call. He then went to tell Lila and Monica goodbye. Lila was teary and wished him well. He said he wanted to see Michael one last time, but not where Michael could see him. He stood on the patio and looked in the French doors as Lila and Monica played with Michael. Lila caught sight of him and softly began to cry again. Jason looked on, started to leave, but was compelled to look back and then left. Afterwards, Monica shared her grief with Lila over his leaving. She told her he said he'd loved her, and that she said that she knew that she had never really lost Jason, that all the love, kindness, and inner strength the old Jason had was still there. Edward and Lila discussed Jason's departure. Edward said he thought Jason's love for Michael would have kept him tied to them, but Lila explained that Jason thought that leaving would be best for Michael. Edward recounted Jason's recovery from the accident and regretted never having told him that he was proud of him, but Lila comforted him with the idea that Jason understood Edward perfectly. Edward vowed to give AJ a chance, not that I think he'll succeed, but we owe him that. And then in February, Felicia told Mac that she had to go away that night, and he guessed it was for research for Lila's memoir. She mumbled that she'd gotten far behind when Faison had held her captive, and Mac replied with tone full of meaning that he understood. Valentine's Day, Edward gave Lila her present, candy and music that danced 2 years before. He is so sweet when he wants to be.
Mm-hmm. And then in April, Chloe and Lila were having a pleasant visit, talking about all the ways their men deal with adversity when Lucy Coe came in. She asked Chloe about 3 or 4 designs for the nurses' ball, and Chloe agreed before leaving. Lucy then came to the real reason for her visit, to plead with Lila to intercede with Edward on her behalf in the matter of the vacant hospital board seat. Edward came in, and after some excessive flattery and flirting, Lucy left. Edward asked Lila to advise him as to whom he should back for the seat, but Lila refused, explaining that Edward always does exactly as he wishes anyway.
Very true.
There was a situation a few weeks later where the Qs were tearing into Carly, and Sonny reminded them that Carly is the mother of their grandson or great-grandson, and she deserves to be treated with respect, and Lila applauded that sentiment. And then in May at the Quartermaines, Carly and Michael arrived to see Lila. Carly told her about how Sonny wants to be a family and revealed a plan to marry just as AJ came in. He was horrified and began to argue with Carly, who called for Johnny to remove Michael. Carly apologized to Lila and suggested that from now on, Lila visit Michael at the penthouse. AJ demanded to see Michael, and he and Carly began to argue until Lila broke it up just as Monica entered. Monica thanked Carly for bringing Michael, and Carly fled the scene. Lila chastised AJ and insisted in the future he be polite to her guests. Then Monica scolded him for ruining Carly's visit. Later in the day, Alan gave Monica her birthday present, a triple-framed photo of each of her children. AJ entered from the terrace, bearing a bunch of roses. Then Edward and Lila came in from the next room. Edward immediately started in on AJ, causing Lila to exclaim, "Oh, shut up, Edward!" Before Monica, I don't do a good Lila. Before Monica interrupted and explained that all she really wanted was for her birthday was for Edward to be pleasant to everyone. AJ proposed a toast and then toasted Monica with a glass of sparkling water. And then on May 10th, AJ apologized to Lila for ruining her visit with Michael. Lila, in a charge from her normal, actually gave AJ a piece of her mind. AJ pleaded his case with his grandmother, and asked her to talk to Carly and help him see his son. Lila said that she would help AJ only if AJ would help himself and stop drinking. I really hope that, I guess Michael doesn't really remember a lot of this. I was going to say, I hope that Michael finds a way to be able to at least be there to listen to Violet.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't. He was too young. So for at least that one.
Right.
I mean, AJ was in and out a lot. So, and then May 17th, Lila entered the room and asked to speak with Jax alone. Edward did put up a fight, but then left. Jax assumed that Lila was going to ask him to abandon the takeover, but she surprised him. I guess Jax was trying to take over ELQ at the time. Her remark was that it does not matter to her one way or the other. Lila commented that she hopes Jax will consider the long range of costs and implications in taking over ELQ, meaning especially family and taking care of Chloe. Lila also said she hoped Jax was more clever than Edward. Jax then politely excused himself. Edward returned to find out how Lila fared, and did Jax retreat. Lila told Edward she did not ask Jax to withdraw. She told Edward, you started this madness, and now you have to finish yourself. Then on the 24th, Edward and Lila arrive at the hospital to visit Carly and Sonny. Lila asks to speak with Sonny alone. Sonny confessed to Lila that he does not have the words to tell Carly that when she awakens, they have lost their baby. Sonny shared his thoughts about Carly with Lila. He said she was indeed a good mother, although not many people see that side of Carly. Lila mentioned that Sonny and Carly shared a child together, and now they must grieve the loss together. Sonny takes Lila's hand and asks her if his son was in heaven somewhere, safe and happy. Lila responded, I believe in God, and I believe your son is with God. Sonny started to cry, and he thanked Lila for the visit and then returned to Carly's side. And then on the 30th, there was an ELQ board vote. Edward confided to Lila that he was a little bit worried, and Lila said that no matter what, he has her love and it's unconditional. And then in October, Emily was asking Lila for help getting Xander out of a jam, and she turned down her request for financial aid. I did not look more into that, but I thought it was interesting that she said no.
Right.
And then in December, Edward, Emily, and Reginald went searching for a Christmas tree. Lila had given Edward a list of what kind of a tree, but he said that he wanted a Canadian pine. Reginald was telling the clerk that they would like to take the one he was pointing to, and Edward said they would not. Reginald said it was a Lila tree. Edward asked if the tree told him that, and Reginald said, well, yeah, like Edward was stupid to ask. They agreed that if Lila liked the tree, they would keep it, and she did.
I love Reginald.
Mm-hmm.
For 2001, August 10th, Edward bid on a ring for Lila, and it seemed that he had won it when a voice called from the back of the room with $1 million bid. Everyone's mouth fell open when they saw Jax standing in the doorway. I want to know what kind of ring we're buying for $1 million. Jeez.
I know.
And then in 2002, March 6th, Jax has arrived at the Quartermaine mansion and presents Lila with the controlling shares of ELQ stock. Edward immediately begins a campaign to sweet-talk Lila. On March 8th, Edward gets down on one knee and asks Lila to marry him again. Smiling sweetly, Lila agrees to renew their wedding vows, but reminds Edward that she still won't give him controlling interest in ELQ. On March 18th, Lila said she was going to make a decision about the shares and who would run ELQ. She let Edward and Skye each have a say and then proclaimed that they would share the job of CEO. They weren't too pleased about that at all. And then in 2003, April 17th and 18th, Tracy tries to make herself at home while Edward tries to throw her out. She uses Dylan to get some sympathy, but no one buys it. Lila comes downstairs and is happy to see her. Tracy asks Lila to let her stay at the mansion for a little while and that she is in trouble and needs the family's help. Tracy pleads with Lila to persuade the others to let her stay with them at the mansion. Lila warns her that if she does anything to cause trouble in the family, she will make her leave at once, and Tracy promises to be good. Skye goes to see Lila to tell her the truth. Tracy knew that Ray lied to Alan about being Skye's father. Alan stops her before she leaves the room to tell her that despite everything, he still thinks of her and his daughter, and that won't change. Skye doesn't know whether to believe it. She tells Lila about Ray's deceit and how Tracy blackmailed her mother and then her just recently to keep the information a secret. Skye goes back to the room and tells Tracy that Lila would like to have a word with her. Tracy starts to worry when she asks Skye what she told her mother. Skye tells her that she told Lila the truth. Tracy tells them that she will talk to Lila and that she will understand why she did it. Tracy is in for a surprise when Lila lights into her and tells her that she should be ashamed of herself for what she did to that poor girl. Reginald comes in to see if Lila needs anything. Lila tells Reginald to go upstairs and pack Tracy's bags and kick her out. She tells her not to come back here again. I mean, she warned her in the beginning, don't mess with the family or I'm going to kick you out.
Yep.
And then October 9th, Edward notices that Dylan is watching an old favorite movie of his and Lila's, and they tell him the story about how he took Lila to see that movie and that she cried on his shoulder in the theater. October 24th, Skye lets Luke inside the living room at the Quartermaines. She tells him to go and look around for some money and get out of her life for good. He tells her he needs the other playing cards. She asks him to give her the one he has. He shows it to her but refuses to give it to her and puts it in his shirt pocket. She brings out a bunch of decks of old playing cards that Lila has collected and looks through them for any signs of the dead man's hand cards. She hands him back the card he let her look at. She puts the card away and leaves. Skye takes the real old card out of her sleeve. Luke goes back downstairs where Skye is looking at Lila's old playing cards. Luke confronts her about stealing the card from him earlier and replacing it with one of Lila's old cards. He asks her to give it back. That dead man's hand is like a whole thing.
Well, that's when we got Sam. But did you know that they were Lila's cards?
I did not. No.
I thought it had to do with Jax's dad. I thought that. So yes. I was really, that's mostly why I put that in there. Because I'm like, wait a second, the dead man's hand involved Lila? Like, I didn't remember that.
I didn't remember that either. It was, if you would have asked me who is it about, I instantly would have said Jax's dad.
Mm-hmm. Because wasn't it like his dad passed and that had to do with.
Right. Something with his like hidden fortune or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. December 24th, as the morose Luke sits alone aboard the haunted Star on Christmas Eve, he is visited by the ghost of Stavros, who is shackled in chains. Stavros shows Luke the chains he is forced to carry and informs Luke that the chains were forged by the hatred Stavros practiced during his life. Stavros further warns Luke that Luke is destined for the same fate unless Luke changes his life. Stavros predicts that Luke will be visited by 3 more spirits. The next spirit to appear is Helena, who informs Luke that she is the spirit of Christmas past. Helena takes Luke to a street corner in Port Charles, where Luke sees himself as a youngster along with Bobby, conning a rich woman out of some money. While Luke and Bobby tell their benefactress that they need the money for groceries, they really plan to buy a bus ticket to go live with their Aunt Ruby in Florida. Luke is amazed to learn that the benefactress was Lila Quartermaine, who had planned to adopt Luke and Bobby. That's so sad.
I know. And then, unfortunately, the next storyline that, we saw her a couple times side by side, but, just like sideline. But unfortunately, the next time we see anything about Lila is in July 2014, on July 14th. At the Quartermaine mansion, Justice is shocked when he realizes that Edward summoned him to the mansion to inform Justice that Lila passed away in her sleep the previous evening. As Edward recounts that Lila's last words to Edward the evening before was a reaffirmation of her love for him. My goodness gracious. Okay. Tracy arrives and blasts Edward and Justice because Tracy believes that Edward and Justice have their heads together for no reason except to plot against Tracy. Tracy is stunned when Justice informs her about Lila's passing. Tracy breaks down and remembers Lila comforting her during one of Dylan's childhood medical crises. And then they go to the hospital, and remember when Dylan was trying to get some birth control? He wasn't getting birth control. He was trying to get Viagra.
Yes.
And Alan was going to cover for him or something. But when Alan arrives, before Alan can learn about Dylan's pharmaceutical defense, Monica arrives in and informs Alan that Lila has passed away. Alan breaks down and leaves immediately with Monica to check on Edward. And then we go to Ellen B., and Brooklyn received a call from Alice telling her of Lila's death. She goes to immediately find Ned and reports the sad news to her father. Ned tells Brooklyn that he is going to the Quartermaine mansion to see how Edward is holding up, and asks Brooklyn to inform Lois of the sad news. Before he leaves, Ned recalls for his daughter how comforting Lila's presence was when Brooklyn was born. When Lois later returned to L&B, she tells Brooklyn that Lila was the one Quartermaine who welcomed Lois into the family with open arms. Lois tearfully confides her regret that Brooklyn did not have more opportunities to spend with Lila before Lila faded out of their lives forever. And then Nicholas Lucky and Liz are all hanging out, and that's when Emily receives the phone call telling her about Lila's death. She breaks down and Lucky's comforting her. As she remembers some of her fondest memories of Lila, Nicholas numbly tells Emily that he is sorry for her loss. However, Emily hurries away with Lucky. Later, Nicholas contacts Alexis and lets her know about Lila's passing. Alexis explains to Nicholas the gracious way that Lila dealt with the situation when Alexis walked out and left Ned standing alone at the altar. Inside Kelly's, Felicia and Max share the sad news about Lila with Maxie and Georgie and remember some of the marvelous things that Lila had accomplished in her life. At Jason's penthouse, Jason makes another attempt to convince Sam to level with him about the facts surrounding Sam's various problems so that Sam can successfully defend her and her unborn child. However, Sam continues to evade his questioning. Their conversation is interrupted by Emily's arrival. Emily lets Jason know about Lila's passing, and later Sam listens in as Jason and Emily share some of their fondest memories of Lila. Alan and Monica and Dylan arrive at the Quartermaine mansion while Edward, Tracy, Ned, and Justice are remembering Lila. They're all surprised when Jason walks in, accompanied by Emily. Edward thanks Jason for coming and tells Jason that of all of his grandchildren, Jason is the one who reminds Edward the most of Lila. When Lucky, Brooklyn, and Lois arrive, Tracy suddenly breaks down and blasts her family for waiting until after Lila passed away to suddenly begin acting like a family. Edward tries to console Tracy, and when Tracy has managed to get a hold of her emotions, Edward slips away onto the patio. Outside, Edward notices a bowl of Lila's favorite roses from her rose garden beside one of her gardening gloves. Reaffirming his love for Lila, Edward breaks down himself. Later, when Jason returns to the penthouse, Jason shares some of his war memories of Lila with Sam, and Sam suddenly announces that she plans to name their daughter Lila.
That's so sad.
I know, and I feel like the worst part is this is when we didn't have John Ingle as Edward. Right. And, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Brooklyn shows up at the Quartermaines with a dozen yellow roses to pay her respects. Edward thanks her for her thoughtfulness and tells Brooklyn that roses were Lila's favorite flower. Brooklyn shares with him about how she remembers coming to visit the family when she was a little girl and how Lila always wore such beautiful dresses and gowns, and there were always fresh-cut roses all over the house that she could smell. Lois shows up with a dozen of yellow roses, just like Brooklyn. Brooklyn tells Edward she has to go now and tries to make a hasty goodbye. Edward picks the pillow that Lila had embroidered and gave it to Brooklyn and tells her that Lila would have wanted her to have the pillow she made. Brooklyn is overwhelmed by Edward's gift and thanks him. Brooklyn leaves. Lois tries to fill the uncomfortable silence by talking nonstop about Lila's roses and why she bought some too. Edward asks her why she came. Lois sees how disappointed he is in her. She starts to cry a little and tells Edward that she deeply regrets not allowing Brooklyn to see Lila and the family more when she was growing up, and that now her daughter won't ever have the chance. Edward tells her that he has his own regrets and forgives her. Later, Lois finds Brooklyn sitting outside Kelly's. She tells Brooklyn how sorry she is that she never allowed her to visit Lila more. She tries to explain that she didn't want her to grow up with such a controlling family and that she feels that she was better off being raised in Bensonhurst. Brooklyn tells her that she understands she did what she thought was best for her at the time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The next part, Courtney goes to GH. She overhears a shrill Tracy on the telephone at the nurse's station demanding a new meeting with the Charity Guild and insists on taking over the position that Lila had. Courtney is furious at Tracy for trying to undermine her children's foundation and lays into her about it and threatens to go to Lila about it. Tracy tells her that Lila is dead. Courtney is shocked by the news and apologizes to Tracy and tries to offer her condolences. Tracy refuses to accept her sympathy and tells her that Lila was only polite to her because of good breeding and manners. Courtney tells her that she won't respond to her right now out of respect for Lila's death and that she will make concessions for Tracy's behavior. Tracy lashes out at Courtney and tells her that she was inconsequential in Lila's life. Courtney goes to the docks and waits for Jax to arrive there. Jax is in a good mood and accuses her of calling a meeting that isn't for the purpose of discussing Foundation business. Courtney looks somber and tells Jax that he has obviously not heard the news. Jack becomes seriously concerned and asks her what the bad news is. Courtney tells him about Lila's death. Jax takes Lila's death hard and starts to talk about not visiting Lila more often and that he should have taken time to talk to her more and be around more. Courtney says that sees that he is crying and asks who he is talking about, Lila or his own father. Jax cries and Courtney comforts him. Meanwhile, Emily finds Jason on the docks. She asks him to assist her in helping the rest of the family cope with Lila's loss and asks him for a favor. Jason tries to explain that other than Lila and herself, he hasn't been able to connect to the rest of the family emotionally and doesn't think he can help them. Emily points out to him that when Lila died, the family worried that he would no longer have a reason to connect with the family anymore. Jason reluctantly agrees to help when Emily tells him to do what Lila would have wanted him to do. Courtney finds Jason on the pier and tells him how sorry she is for his loss. Later, Jason returns to Sonny's penthouse and calls for Michael to come downstairs. Michael wonders if he's in trouble again. Jason assures him he did nothing wrong and tells him about who Lila was and how she was related to him. Michael remembers Lila as that older, nice lady in the wheelchair who used to wave hello to him at the GH Christmas parties all the time. Jason asks him to do him a favor and for Lila, even if she's in heaven. He asks Michael to go visit the Quartermaines with him, and Michael agrees to do it for Jason. Emily goes to Kelly's and sits with Liz, who gives her condolences to Emily. Bobby comes over with a piece of chocolate cake to try to cheer up Emily. Bobby tells Emily that Lila has sort of passed the torch to her when she died, and it's up to Emily to help comfort and get the family back on track again. Lucky shows up later and talks to Liz. Liz tells him that Emily isn't handling Lila's death as well as she is letting on, and that it is up to them to help her get through this. Lucky agrees to help Emily through this loss. Jason shows up with Michael and surprises Alan and Monica. Alan worries that Edward isn't dealing with his loss very well and is bottling up his feelings inside. Michael is friendly towards Alan and Monica and cheers them up when he tells them he knows they are his grandparents and shakes Alan's hand and allows Monica to give him a hug. Jason brings Michael to the next room to see Edward. Felicia stops by and gives Edward her notes and her almost completed memoir of Lila that she has worked on for the past few years. Edward thanks her and looks at the pictures. Felicia tells him that their love story is the best one she's ever heard. Edward shows Michael some pictures of Lila. Heather Weber shows up at Kelly's with Lulu. She offers to take care of Leslie when she gets out of the hospital. When was Heather nice? I totally don't remember any of this. Bobby tells her that Leslie wishes she could be released sooner so she could go to Lila's funeral. Heather is taken aback by the news and wonders how Edward is handling it. Heather shows up at GH and runs into Tracy near the elevators. Heather recognizes who Tracy is, but Tracy doesn't seem to recognize her. Heather reintroduces herself to her. Tracy asks her if she was the woman who did all those horrible things to her family. Heather insists she has changed and is a better person. Tracy dismisses her and goes to call the elevator. Heather gives her condolences for Lila's death. Tracy refuses to accept her sympathy and tries to get away from Heather. Heather makes a comment about how Edward is really going to need comfort and support right now and offers to be a friend to him. This comment unnerves Tracy, which is exactly what Heather intended for it to do. Emily finds Monica trying to write Lila's obituary and not being able to write anything meaningful. Emily tells her that Lila didn't like obituaries anyway. Monica admits to Emily that she always envied her relationship with Lila since she has always wanted to be the person that Emily came to share her innermost secrets and thoughts, but that she thanked God for that she was able to bond with Lila in her lifetime. Alan shows up and takes comfort in seeing Emily nearby to help him. Emily returns to Kelly's after Lucky calls her. He invites her to go somewhere fun for a while to keep their minds off their troubles. Emily thanks him for the invitation and agrees to go with him. I didn't remember Heather being nice, but I guess it does make sense now. I can think about her cozying up to Edward and how completely inappropriate that all was.
Yep.
Felicia hangs out at Kelly's with Bobby and tells her that she talked to Robin on the phone, and Robin is going to be flying in later to go to Lila's funeral service the next day. Bobby is pleased with the news since Robin hasn't been in Port Charles for a long time to visit. Meanwhile, Faith runs into Justice at the courthouse and asks him to be her new attorney since Alexis is too distracted lately to defend her efficiently. Justice is in a hurry and tells her he doesn't have time for her right now. Faith asks him what's so important he can't help her, and he tells her that there was an unexpected death. Faith thinks that it's someone related to the mob and insists that she had nothing to do with the death, and Justice tells her it was Lila who died and that Lila was the kind of woman Faith could never hope to be. Faith apologizes and gives her condolences, and then Rick tells Alexis that he postponed a hearing they were to attend for a couple of days so that she could be around Christina and help her and the Quartermaines deal with the loss of Lila. Alexis tells him that Christina hardly remembers Lila since she was an infant when she was living with the Quartermaines. Rick tells her that he thought she would want to be there, at least for Ned. Alexis warns him to stay out of her personal business and act more professional and storms off. Later, she apologizes if she came across as unsympathetic, and Rick dismisses her and takes out a piece of paper and frowns towards where Alexis went.
And then Friday, July 16th, in loving tribute of Anna Lee, Lila Quartermaine, 1913 to 2004, at the Quartermaine mansion, Monica and Alan spoke of Lila, and Alan admitted that he had always hoped he was his mother's favorite. Monica stated that she knew of Lila's affection towards Alan from the first meeting. Tracy entered, wanting somebody to stop all the interlopers from attending and interfering with the memorial service. She managed to enrage Monica enough to incite Monica to threaten to kick her out of the mansion, going as far as to ordering Alice to throw out Tracy's belongings. Tracy threw Rick Weber and AJ's questionable parentage into Monica's face, and also questioned if AJ even knew about Lila's death. The room soon also filled with Edward, Dylan, Ned, Lois, Brooklyn, Justice, and Emily. Emily managed to break up the argument and convinced Monica to allow Tracy to stay in the house. Speaking with Alan alone, Tracy apologized for picking the fight. The siblings came to the realization that they indeed had the best mother in the world. Felicia, Maxie, and Georgie prepared for the service. Soon Bobby and Lucas arrived, followed by Lucy, dressed in red, and Kevin. And I believe that she even said, I think it was actually her wedding dress, wasn't it? And I think she said, like, she was wearing that because she always called her Mother Lila, Mother Quartermaine.
Mother McQuartermaine, yeah.
Did you say Mother McQuartermaine?
No, I was correcting you at the same time. Mother Quartermaine.
Yeah. If I had read the next sentence, Lucy recalled her wedding to Alan in the short marriage with her red wedding dress and remembered how Lila, Mother Quartermaine, had always treated her so well.
There you go.
Well, I guess I was right. Carly comforted Jason and reflected on how good Lila had been to her. Meanwhile, outside the church, Sonny ran into Robin Scorpio. She had just flown into town for service. She mentioned that Brenda wanted to come but could not, and that Brenda was happy and hoped that Sonny was happy too, believing that he was with the woman of his destiny, Carly. Sonny and Robin also remembered Stone, prompting Sonny to apologize for not taking care of her as he promised Stone he would. Robin said that she hadn't let him, apologized for the distance, and let him know that she loved him. When the Quartermaines arrived, Monica tried to remind Tracy of Robin, the daughter of Anna and Robert Scorpio, but Tracy couldn't be bothered. Alan had to pull her away from Sonny's presence. Jax and Courtney arrived, and Jax introduced Robin to Courtney. At this point, Robin learned of Jason's divorce and Jax's new romantic interest. When Jason arrived, he and Robin shared some time together. Jason was surprised to see her, but he was glad to see Robin happy. Robin mentioned that Brenda had told him hi, and that her time in Europe was good, getting to see her mother Anna and her old friend Brenda. Oh, Robin had fun in Europe. I was like, what are you talking? It sounded like that message was coming from Brenda. Okay.
Right.
Tracy welcomed Amanda Barrington to the service, and Ned greeted Alexis. Alan and Monica spoke to Lee and Gail Baldwin and reminisced about how much of the family had once resided above Kelly's. Tracy reminded them that it was because Monica had thrown Edward and Alan out of the house. Tracy tried to offer condolences to her favorite ex-husband while also trying to not offend Monica. Rick and Liz were in attendance, and Lucky was there to pay his respects and to comfort Emily. Dylan, and it says in Brook, but that's Brooklyn.
It's Brooklyn, yeah.
Descendants of Lila realized that Maxie and Georgie knew her better. Tony and Bobby had fond memories and mentioned how much Luke adored Lila. Monica spoke at the service, followed by Alan, who remarked that Lila liked everybody. Tracy spoke about how people wondered how she could possibly be the daughter of Lila Quartermaine, but given everything, how she was still loved by her mother and how that sustained her. She also said that Lila never stopped learning and that she would try to honor that by learning from her mother. I feel like Tracy has recently really stepped into being more like Lila.
Oh, absolutely.
She's like the perfect blend of Lila and Edward right now.
Yes.
Ned remembered that his grandmother understood his desire to perform and that she was a performer herself, always coming across as smiling, serene, and wise, what they expected her to be. Jason rose to speak but could not. Emily took his place and said that she had never seen Lila able to walk and dance, but that her spirit was always free. She lamented not telling her adoptive grandmother that she loved her one more time. Brooklyn sang in honor of her great-grandmother, and Edward thanked everyone for attending. He said that he believed there was a heaven and that Lila was there now. There were fond memories of Lila with Edward and her family. And then on July 28th, Lila's will states that she is leaving the bulk of her estate to the Quartermaine, who behaves the most civil over the next 30 days. And that is what we are covering next week.
Oh, I can't wait.
Oh, man.
Are there guidelines? Like, what does that mean exactly?
Yeah, exactly.
I cannot wait.
It's going to be good. So join us on Monday as we recap this week's shows.
Oh, happy 4th of July, too.
Oh, and happy 4th of July. Yes.
Yes. Have a good weekend.
And we'll meet you at the pier.
Bye.
Bye. Great job remembering a holiday. We keep forgetting them lately.
I just happened to think, wait, Thursday. If you enjoyed today's show, we invite you to go to peer54podcast.com to subscribe on your favorite platform. Don't forget to leave us a review.
And you can also follow us on many social media channels. Just search for Peer 54 Podcast. Also, we are not perfect, so if there is something that we missed or messed up, just let us know by emailing us at peer54podcast@gmail.com.